In this video, I'm going to show you how I installed a mod chip in my PlayStation using a cheap Arduino development board. This mod chip allows the PlayStation to read burned game backup discs and play games from other regions. Also, you won't believe how easy it is to install. Stay tuned. These days, there are so many ways to play PlayStation 1 games. You can play your PlayStation favorites on a PS3 or a PlayStation 2. You could pick up one of those PlayStation Classic systems or try out an awesome emulator like DuckStation. There are even ways to play PS1 titles on Sony's handheld devices, the PSP and the Vita. But this gray box has a special place in my heart. The original Sony PlayStation is one of my absolute favorite game consoles due to its diverse library of games and my personal nostalgic connection to the console. This weekend, after an absolute bummer week of work, I was setting up my CRT and getting ready to relax and play some video games. At some point it occurred to me that I needed a way to play my PlayStation 1 backup discs on the original hardware. Most mod chips for the PlayStation will allow you to run burned games, games from outside the console's region, and even homebrew, even though there's not a lot of homebrew out there for the PlayStation 1. While looking for a way to modify my PlayStation, I came across an amazing project called PsNee. PsNee is an open source stealth mod chip that works on every version of the PlayStation 1. PsNee is designed to run on Arduino boards, which is super convenient. If you've seen any of my other videos, you probably know that I keep a lot of these Arduinos in stock. The supported varieties include the Arduino Uno, Leonardo, Nano, Mini, the Pro Micro, and the Pro Mini. In this video, I will be using the Arduino Nano. ATtiny 25, 45, and 85 chips are also supported, but you will need a special programmer to write the PsNee code to these chips. The PsNee code is available on the Kalimos GitHub page. I found the documentation of the PsNee installs to be very good. The PDF installation guide contains a link to William Quade's website for more detailed information about each version of the PlayStation motherboard. I will have links to all of these resources in the video description. Let's take a look and see what it takes to install one of these PsNee mod chips. So if you want to install one of these, you will obviously need a PlayStation. It doesn't really matter what model since there's a wiring diagram for every revision. In this example, I will be using my 7501 PlayStation, and I will also show you my 5501 PlayStation just to give you an idea of what some of these different versions might look like. You will need to pick up an Arduino development board. Any of the supported boards are fine, but I would recommend the Nano because it's cheap, easy to find, and you can program it with a normal mini USB cable. The Pro Mini is also a great choice because it's small and flat. This makes it easy to hide inside the console, but to program it you will need an adapter. To install the chip, you will need a soldering iron, some flux, and some wire. I'll be using 28 gauge wire here. This is completely optional, but depending on your install, you may want some Kapton tape to insulate the mod chip or the soldering points. So the very first step is to flash the PsNee code onto your Arduino board. First, navigate to the PsNee GitHub page and download the Arduino INO file. Open this file up in the Arduino IDE. The Arduino sketch contains instructions on how to set up the code for the board of your choice. All you need to do is uncomment the line for the microcontroller you will be using. I'll be using the Arduino Nano, so I need to delete these slash marks on the line that says Define Arduino 328 board. And that's the only change that needs to be made. So now we can go to the Tools menu. Here you must select the Arduino board you're using and the port it is connected to. You can determine the port by plugging the Arduino in and seeing which port appears. The COM ports can also be verified by opening up Device Manager. Next, click Upload and wait for the Done Uploading message. Now the PsNee is ready to install. I'm going to disassemble this PlayStation down to the motherboard so we can get this mod chip installed. Thankfully, this system is not too hard to take apart. The model number of this PlayStation is SCPH7501. This version of the PlayStation has a metal shield on top of the motherboard. Not all versions have this piece. This piece needs to be removed to access the connection points for the mod chip. To remove the metal shield, grab the soldering iron and heat up the points where the legs of the shield contact the PCB. The shield is flexible enough for you to lift these connections one at a time and let the disconnected solder point cool down. After disconnecting all of the solder points, the shield will lift off easily. Let's take a look at the PsNee wiring diagram for the PU22 board from my 7501 PlayStation. There are 6 wires that need to be connected. I am starting off with the ground and voltage wires. These wires get connected to this little capacitor right here. I'll be using different color wires to match the colors shown in the PsNee installation guide. The grounding wire is the black wire, and the voltage wire is red. The next 2 wires are the SUBQ and the SQCK signal wires. According to the documentation, these 2 connections are part of the bus that tells the PlayStation where the laser is positioned on the disc. I don't have any pink wire for the SUBQ connection, so I will be using a white wire instead. The SQCK connection is the pad immediately below, shown here in blue. The 2 remaining connections are marked gate and data. The gate wire gets connected to this pad that's closer to the edge of the PCB. I am using a green wire. The data connection is this pad near the corner of the big IC that's beside the numbers 52 and 53. I'm using a yellow wire for this one. Now I need to make something clear. Generally, when you're installing a mod chip, you want to keep the wires as short and direct as possible. But I'm not going to do that here. I've been experimenting with this mod using different types and different lengths of wire, and I've had success either way. So in this example, I'm going to leave the wires a little longer so I can position the Arduino in the empty space at the front of the PlayStation. Now it's time to connect the Arduino Nano. Having color-coded wires makes this an easy job. The black wire gets connected to ground. The red wire gets connected to 5 volts. The green wire gets connected to pin 9. The yellow wire gets connected to pin 8. The white wire gets connected to pin 7, and the blue wire gets connected to pin 6. And that's it. Now that the mod chip is connected, the PlayStation can be reassembled. So, you actually don't need to reinstall the metal shield. The PlayStation will work just fine without it, but I'm going to put it back on anyway. Okay, I just need to be careful with the wires when I'm putting all this back in. This part is also totally optional, but I designed this little 3D printed bracket to hold the Arduino Nano in place. You just install it under this screw on the right side of the controller ports. I also made one for the Pro Mini. The STL file for these brackets is available for free on my printables page. I'll leave a link down in the video description. So, have you taken a look at the install guides yet? There are a bunch of different versions of the PS1. Let's take a quick look at another model of the PlayStation so you can see some of the differences between these revisions. This is my 5501 PlayStation that I've been using to test out some mod chips. I'm skipping ahead here because you have already seen all this. See, this one does not have the same metal shield. This looks more like a flap of copper tape or something. But that actually doesn't matter at all because on this model, all the connection points are accessible on the back side of the board. Here you can see some very sloppy work with the enameled wire. I'm going to redo all this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the wiring diagram. Even though this board is different, the same 6 wires are required. Power, ground, SQCK, SUBQ, data, and gate. And yes, I'm soldering to a via on this one, because the pad lifted off the PCB as soon as I touched it with the iron. On this one, I'm also going to try running the wires through this hole in the PCB to keep them together. Hopefully this will demonstrate how the installation process is pretty much the same even on different models. Time to test them out. Let's try loading a game backup disk. Alright, so it's finally time to play some video games. I've got Spyro 3 here. Got everything set up. Let's go ahead and give it a try. All right, should we try another one? Let's see. This is one of my favorites.
Fasten your seatbelts for another Naughty Dog creation.
All right, let's also try a Japanese game.
Ready? Ring out. Ready?
So this is kind of cool. When you turn on the PlayStation, you can actually see the mod chip inside there. Check it out. So in case there's any questions about these two, this is the 7501 and this is the 5501. You can tell this one is slightly yellower than that one. On this one, I also left the door sensor switch disabled so I can run it with the door open.
Yeah.
In summary, PsNee is a really cool project. The Arduino boards are cheap and easy to find, the online documentation is pretty clear, and compared to some other mod chips, it's a pretty simple install. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, there are lots of ways that you can enjoy your PlayStation 1 games. There are also some fantastic mods for the original PlayStation 1 if you have a larger budget for something like an optical drive emulator. Anyway, if you like this video, go ahead and click the like button, and if you're not already subscribed, please click the subscribe button so you will be more likely to see my future videos. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, stay mad.